Well, it's no secret that there is a major funding gap when it comes to fighting climate change, and some of the world's best and brightest are still struggling to find a solution to this problem. Well, I'm joined now by someone who knows quite a lot about fundraising, Badr Jafar, the CEO of Crescent Enterprises and COP28 Special Representative for Business and Philanthropy. Welcome. Thank you for talking to us today.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Now, I feel like that introduction really doesn't do you justice. So can you talk a little bit about your background and how you've come to be where you are today?
I'm a plain and simple businessman from the UAE, very proud Emirati, and someone who was roped into the climate agenda just before or in the run-up to COP28, which of course the UAE hosted last year. And I think part of the reason why it was a success is because the COP28 president himself, His Excellency Sultan Al Jaber, made it very clear from the outset that for us to move from pledges and announcements to action and implementation, we needed this to be the most inclusive COP ever. So what we did at COP28 was make sure that we had a dedicated engagement platform for business and philanthropy. It was called the COP28 Business and Philanthropy Climate Forum. We welcomed over 1,500 CEOs from more than 90 countries around the world, really representing the whole spectrum of industry. We also had over 400 foundation heads from over 60 countries around the world. And the magic really wasn't so much having all those key individuals and sort of big personalities in the room. It was what they could do when they come together. And it's that multiplier effect that we need to keep building. And I think philanthropic capital more specifically has that unique ability to create and generate that multiplier effect when applied in combination with business capital and government capital. And this is extremely important, of course, with the climate agenda, where the gap between the money that's currently going into the climate agenda today and where it needs to go, which by UN estimates is $4 trillion a year between now and 2030, is a massive gap. And that's why that catalytic effect of a potential for climate philanthropy is so crucial.
So are you optimistic? I mean, that's a massive gap. It's huge. Are you optimistic that with this kind of collaboration and cooperation between the public and the private sector, that gap can be reduced?
One has to be optimistic, right? Without optimism, what do we have? So I am optimistic in the sense that I see major shifts taking place. If you just take philanthropy now, major shifts taking place where philanthropy is moving towards a much more strategic form of altruism, where we are using, it is becoming much more impact driven and evidence-based and using rigorous analysis both in the design, the deployment, and also the follow-through and assessment to make sure that the intended impact is actually being delivered. And that's happening across the world, most excitingly across the global growth markets, or some would refer to as the so-called global south or emerging markets. But this is where the majority of economic growth is taking place, and also where the majority of new net wealth creation is happening. We also see the confluence of technology coming, where philanthropy is moving from a one-to-many model, where a wealthy individual gives to many different causes, to a many-to-one model, where through technology you can pool a seemingly infinite pool of sort of micro donors to fund a single project or a single cause.
It still seems to be happening too slowly. Is it not?
Everything. When you're dealing with an existential challenge, everything feels way too slow.
Yeah.
Right? But we have to believe that we can get the job done. And I think we need to build off really the spirit that came off the UAE consensus in COP to demonstrate that multilateralism is not dead.
Yeah.
Right? We can come together and figure these things out. For me, from a process perspective, what's still missing is the system that allows you to deliver consistent action, right? Not just moving from one convening to the next or from one meeting to the next. But we've got to know that things are actually happening consistently and that momentum builds consistently throughout the year. It's a system challenge.
Who's building that system?
Well, we need to figure this out.
Yeah.
We need to figure this out collectively. And we need to work with whatever we have today as multilateral institutions to figure that out. And if we can't figure it out within the existing multilateral institutions, we need to create new ones that are built on those value systems.
Yeah. So it's interesting as a business person that the question is still being asked, what is the trade-off between doing good, impact and profitability? For you, in your role as a business person, as CEO of Crescent Enterprises, do you have people asking you that question?
Yeah, so I think it's a healthy question to ask. And I think in certain circumstances, there are certain trade-offs. But I think overall, value is built when you combine profit and purpose. And I know that might sound a bit fluffy and warm and fuzzy, but I believe it. And I've seen, in my own, I've been keenly moving the needle on social enterprise in this part of the world for close to 25 years now. And I've seen phenomenal examples, both from small businesses and young social entrepreneurs, all the way to very large infrastructure-based businesses, that when social and environmental goals are properly and strategically aligned with a company's bottom line, financial bottom line or profit, it builds not just resilience, but it builds far deeper trust with the key stakeholders that are required to allow that business to thrive.
Thank you so much for your time. Really appreciate it.
Great pleasure. Thank you.